Under the twin moons of Alaris, the night sky shimmered like melted silver. Ethan, a young human engineer stationed on the alien world, leaned back against the hull of his ship and sighed. The outpost had been quiet for weeks. No distress calls, no activity, just endless reports and silence. His friends were back on Earth, probably laughing somewhere in warm light while he sat alone among creatures who barely spoke to him. Out of boredom, he opened the crew's communication line, smirked, and said in a lazy tone, "All right, who wants to marry me?" He meant it as a joke, a way to break the silence, but the moment he said it, the channel crackled with a strange sound. It wasn't static. It was breathing. He frowned, sat up, and looked around the dim outpost. The other crew members were asleep and the monitors flickered softly. Then a voice, soft and melodic, whispered through the speakers, "I do." The tone was low, confident, and carried a strange chill. Ethan froze, his hand hovering over the control panel. He checked the comm ID, but the source didn't match any known signal. The message repeated, a little closer this time, like someone standing just behind him. "I do, human." Ethan turned quickly. The outpost corridor stretched empty under the faint blue lights. His heart thumped in his chest. For a long minute, he said nothing, then laughed awkwardly. "Okay, good one. Whoever's hacking the channel, nice prank." But the next moment, the room temperature dropped. Frost crawled up the window edges and the lights dimmed. The air shimmered faintly and a shadow formed near the doorway. Thin, tall, graceful. When it stepped forward, Ethan's breath caught. The figure was a woman, or at least mostly human-looking. Her skin had a faint silver hue under the moonlight, her hair long and dark, her eyes reflecting crimson at the edges. She wore a cloak woven with symbols he didn't recognize. Ethan's first instinct was to reach for his sidearm, but she raised her hand slightly and his weapon control system blinked out. "Do not be afraid," she said. Her voice sounded like it came from inside his head as much as from her lips. "You made a vow." Ethan blinked. "A what?" "When a human asks for a binding, our kind listens," she said calmly. "I have answered." He rubbed his forehead. "Lady, that was a joke. I was just—" Her gaze didn't waver. "We do not joke with blood words." Ethan's mind raced. He'd heard rumors about the Nithari, the so-called vampire race that lived beyond the dark mountains, rarely seen by anyone. They drank energy, not blood, but legend said they bonded through spoken vows. Once such a vow was accepted, breaking it could kill both sides. He swallowed hard, trying to steady his voice. "All right, let's say I did say it. You're telling me that counts as real?" The woman stepped closer. "You called, I answered." Your voice crossed the veil. "My name is Sarah of the Nithari, daughter of the Lunar House. You asked who would marry you. I said I would. You belong to me now, or I to you if you wish it so." Her words echoed strangely. Ethan took a careful step back. "This is crazy. You can't just appear and wait. How did you even get in here? We have sealed doors." She tilted her head slightly as if studying a puzzle. "Walls do not stop shadows." Her voice was neither threat nor comfort, just fact. She looked at him with eyes that seemed to glow faintly when she blinked. "Your kind came to Alaris to extract minerals and technology. You dig into our ground and disturb our sleep, yet you speak with such strange courage. No one has ever spoken a vow to my kind without trembling. You laughed." Ethan forced a small smile, trying to keep things light. "Yeah, well, humor keeps me sane." "Then let me see what kind of humor keeps your heart beating," she said softly. The words sent a chill down his spine. She stepped even closer, close enough for him to see the faint pulse beneath her translucent skin. He felt his wristband beep, a sign his suit sensors detected an energy field. "Sarah, listen," he said slowly. "I'm not trying to insult your customs, but humans don't do blood vows or spirit bindings. I was kidding. So if you could just—" She raised a finger, pressing it gently to his lips. Her touch was cold, but not cruel. "Do not speak denial. The vow is not easily undone, but I can give you time to decide if your heart truly meant what your voice spoke." Then, without warning, she stepped back and dissolved into mist. The air returned to normal temperature, the frost fading away. The outpost lights stabilized, and the monitors flickered with their usual hum. Ethan stood there staring at the empty spot where she had been. His communicator beeped once again. A message blinked across the screen, written in a language he didn't know yet somehow he understood. "Until dawn, decide." He didn't sleep that night. Every sound made him jump. Every flicker of shadow looked like her. As the alien sun began to rise over the hills, he saw something etched outside his ship, a perfect circle drawn into the frost, with a single word beneath it: bound. Ethan stared at it, his mind spinning. He didn't believe in curses or spirits, but now he couldn't deny that something had answered him. Somewhere in the shadows beyond the horizon, Sarah of the Nethari was waiting for his answer. And the strangest part of all, deep inside, he wasn't sure whether he wanted to say no. Morning came slowly on Elaris, painting the sky in pale silver and blue. Ethan hadn't slept. His eyes were red from staring at the frost circle outside his ship, the one marked with the word bound. Every time the wind touched it, the symbol glowed faintly, then faded again. He ran his hands through his hair, trying to shake off the unease that crept through his chest. It was just a hallucination, he muttered. Lack of sleep, overworked. But deep down, he knew that wasn't true. He had felt her presence, heard her voice inside his mind. By midday, the rest of the crew began to stir. His teammate Nora yawned and waved. "Hey, you look like you saw a ghost." Ethan forced a laugh. "Something like that." She shrugged and went back to calibrating scanners. He wanted to tell her everything, but stopped himself. Who would believe that an alien vampire had answered a joke? He walked outside to clear his head. The wind was soft, carrying a faint metallic smell from the nearby ore fields. He activated his wrist pad and began recording environmental data, but then his screen blinked. A new signal appeared, encrypted, ancient, and somehow directed only to him. A familiar voice whispered through his earpiece. "You still doubt me, human?" He froze. The voice was unmistakable. "Sarah?" "Yes," she answered. "The one who heard your vow. The one who still waits." Ethan looked around, but there was no one in sight. The horizon stretched endlessly, only rocks and silver dust. "Where are you?" he asked. "Close enough to see your heartbeat," she said softly. "Far enough that you will not run." He swallowed hard, scanning the terrain, but found nothing. Then his wrist pad showed a flicker of shadow behind a rock formation. He followed slowly, his steps cautious, his heart hammering in his chest. When he reached the spot, the air shimmered again, and Sarah appeared just as before, calm and graceful, her long dark hair moving as if touched by unseen wind. "I told you to decide," she said quietly. Ethan sighed. "You can't be serious about that." "I didn't mean anything by it. Humans say things like that all the time. It's just a joke." Sarah tilted her head. "And yet your words carried truth. I could feel your loneliness. Your heart spoke louder than your mind." He didn't answer. She took a step closer, her crimson eyes searching his face. "Your people came to this world to take its treasures," she said softly. "But you, Ethan, you came here to escape something, didn't you?" He blinked. "How would you know that?" "I hear emotions. They echo through your words. Your heart carries sorrow, not greed." He hesitated, then sighed. "Maybe you're right. Back home, things weren't simple. My fiancé left when I was assigned to Elaris. Said she couldn't wait years for me. So yeah, maybe I joked too much to forget." Sarah's expression softened. "Then your vow was born not from foolishness, but from longing. That is why I heard it." Ethan shook his head slowly. "You can't just tie yourself to someone because they're lonely." "That is not why," she said gently. "Among my kind, we bond when we sense strength beneath sorrow. You spoke not to be heard, but to be known, and I heard you." The wind grew still between them. For a moment, neither spoke. Ethan looked at her closely. Her face wasn't frightening anymore. Pale, yes, but calm, with quiet sadness in her eyes. He realized she wasn't some mindless creature. She seemed as lost as he was. "What happens if I say no?" he finally asked. "Then the vow breaks," she said softly, "and the bond fades. But a wound remains in both hearts. Yours will ache with emptiness, mine with silence. I will return to the shadows, and you will forget me in time. But forgetting does not erase the truth that something once reached between us." Her voice carried such quiet pain that Ethan felt his throat tighten. "You talk like it's already decided." "It is not," she said. "You still have until the next full rise of the twin moons." Ethan looked up at the sky. The moons would align tomorrow night. One day to choose. He rubbed his face, trying to think straight. "You're asking me to believe in something impossible. In one night I meet someone who claims she's bound to me forever. It's unbelievable," she finished softly. "Yes? And yet you cannot deny what your eyes see." He wanted to argue, but she was right. His sensors had recorded her energy signature. Whatever she was real. Why me? He asked again. Because you are the first human to speak without wanting power, she replied. You spoke with a lonely heart, not a greedy one. We hear those rare voices. Before he could answer, the outpost alarm blared. A tremor shook the ground. Ethan grabbed his communicator. Nora, what's going on? Her voice crackled through static. Something's happening under the ore field. We've got energy surges, massive ones. Ethan turned to Sarah, but she was already looking toward the horizon. Her crimson eyes narrowed. They have awakened something ancient, she murmured. The old guardians of the Nithari rest beneath those mines. If they rise, your crew will not survive. What do you mean? She looked at him gravely. Only a bound one can stop them. Ethan felt the weight of her words. You mean me? She nodded slowly. Yes, the bond gives power to protect or destroy. You called to me. Now fate calls to you. The ground shook again, harder this time. Distant thunder rolled through the silver plains. Sarah reached out her hand toward him, her voice calm but firm. Decide, human. Not for me, but for those who will die if you turn away. Ethan stared at her hand. The wind whipped between them, carrying dust and fragments of frost. He hesitated only a moment longer before he reached out and took it. Her touch was still cold, but beneath it he felt something alive, pulsing like shared light. When their hands joined, the frost circle outside his ship ignited again, brighter than before. The bond, whatever it was, had awakened fully. Ethan's heart pounded as Sarah whispered, "Then we are one." And as the first roar rose from the distant mines, he realized his joke had become the most serious choice of his life. The moment Ethan's hand touched Sarah's, the ground beneath them trembled harder. The air shimmered with strange energy, and a pale light spread through the horizon. He could feel warmth moving up his arm, rushing into his chest. It wasn't painful, just heavy, as if his heart was being filled with something ancient and powerful. Sarah's eyes glowed faintly, but her expression stayed calm. The bond is sealed, she said quietly. Now you can hear what I hear. Before Ethan could ask what she meant, the earth split open a few hundred meters away. A surge of blue mist burst out, carrying dust and fragments of rock high into the air. His communicator buzzed with Nora's voice again. Ethan, we've got seismic spikes everywhere. What did you do out there? He looked toward the outpost and saw people running, alarms flashing red. I'm not sure, he said honestly. Just stay inside. Don't come out. Sarah stepped forward, her cloak fluttering in the wind. They have awakened the guardians, she murmured. Ethan followed her gaze and saw massive shapes rising from the ground. Towering figures of dark stone, their forms glowing with cracks of blue fire. They looked like statues, but they moved slowly, turning their featureless faces toward the sky. What are those? He asked. The Watchers, Sarah said. They were placed here long before your species learned to speak. They protect our resting grounds. Ethan's heart raced. Then why are they attacking now? Because your machines dug too deep. They sensed violation. He clenched his fists. Then we have to stop them before they reach the outpost. Sarah looked at him steadily. You cannot stop them with weapons. Only with the bond. He frowned. What does that even mean? Your blood and my essence are joined now, she said. Through that connection, you can command energy that speaks their language, the energy of life and death. You must learn quickly. Ethan took a shaky breath. You're telling me I can somehow control ancient alien stone giants? Yes, she said simply. But if you lose focus, they will crush you instead. He stared at the glowing forms ahead. They were moving toward the mining site, each step shaking the ground. Nora's voice came again, panicked now. Ethan, the ground's splitting. We're evacuating. Don't, he said. I'm going to try something first. Sarah placed her hand over his chest, right above his heart. Close your eyes, she whispered. Feel the echo inside you. That is where the bond lives. Speak through it. He hesitated, but did as she said. The world dimmed, and for a moment he could hear nothing but his heartbeat, and then hers, faint but steady like two drums finding the same rhythm. A rush of images flashed through his mind. The silver moons, the mines, the ancient watchers, and then a symbol. One he'd never seen before, but somehow understood. It meant peace. When he opened his eyes, his hands glowed faintly blue. The same light pulsed in the distance where the watchers moved. They can hear you now, Sarah said softly. Tell them to stop. Ethan raised his voice, feeling unsure but determined. "Stop. We didn't mean to harm your world." His voice echoed strangely, carried by something larger than sound. The watchers slowed. One of them turned its head slightly as if listening. For a second, everything went still. Then the ground trembled again, harder this time. One of the watchers released a deep, thunderous sound that made his bones ache. "They do not trust easily," Sarah warned. "They smell the greed of your kind in the soil." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Then they can read me instead." He stepped forward, holding his glowing hand high. "I'm not here to take anything. I just want to make things right." The nearest watcher bent slightly, lowering its enormous head until its shadow covered both him and Sarah. A faint voice rumbled in his mind, deep and ancient, one of light bound to one of night. "Speak the promise." Ethan looked at Sarah in confusion. "What promise?" "The vow you made," she said gently. "But now speak it with truth." He swallowed hard, then spoke slowly. "I swear to protect this world, not for what it gives, but for what it is. And I swear not to harm those who call it home." The watcher's blue glow flared brighter, then dimmed to a steady pulse. The others stopped moving. One by one they sank back into the ground, leaving behind only faint ripples of light. The earth grew still again. Ethan dropped to his knees, exhausted. "Did it work?" "Yes," Sarah said quietly. "You spoke their language, the language of intent. The Guardians will rest now." He looked up at her. "So this bond thing, it actually saved us." "It did," she said. "But now it ties you to this land as it ties you to me. You cannot leave without parting your soul." He blinked. "Wait, what?" "You are bound to Alaris," she said softly. "Your vow connected you to its heart. If you leave, your body will fade and your spirit will remain here." He stared at her, stunned. "You should have told me that before." Her expression was calm but sad. "Would you have done it if I had?" He didn't answer. The question cut deeper than he expected. He looked toward the outpost where smoke rose faintly from the tremors. He had saved them, but at a price he didn't understand. Sarah turned to go, her cloak brushing softly against the dust. "Rest now," she said. "You will need your strength." "The bond is not yet complete," Ethan frowned. "Not complete? What else is left?" She glanced back at him, her red eyes glinting under the sunlight. "Every bond has two promises. You gave yours. Now I must give mine." Before he could ask what she meant, her body shimmered again, fading into silver mist. Ethan was left standing alone in the quiet morning air, the frost circle still glowing faintly at his feet. He looked at his hand, still marked by that faint blue light, and whispered to himself, "What did I just become?" The wind answered only with silence. But deep within the soil of Alaris, something old stirred once more, watching him, waiting to see if a human heart could truly keep an alien promise. The next night came with a pale silver glow over the valley. The twin moons of Alaris hung low, their reflections shimmering across the metal sands. Ethan stood near the outpost fence, staring at the horizon where the ground had swallowed the ancient guardians. The air felt heavier tonight, almost like it was watching him. He rubbed his wrist where faint blue marks still glowed under his skin. No matter how hard he tried, the light never faded. He had barely slept since the quake. The engineers worked all day to fix broken generators, while command ships from orbit demanded reports he didn't know how to explain. What could he tell them? That a vow to an alien vampire stopped a planetary disaster. They would think he'd lost his mind. And yet he couldn't deny the truth of what he'd seen. Sarah was real. The Guardians were real. The bond was real. Nora approached him quietly, carrying a cup of steaming synth coffee. "You've been out here since dawn," she said. "Whatever happened yesterday, it's not your fault." Ethan took the cup, his hands trembling slightly. "Maybe not, but something tells me it's not over." She frowned. "You think the tremors will start again?" He hesitated. "No, something else. I can feel it, like someone's calling." Nora raised an eyebrow. "You need rest." She turned to leave, but before she could take a step, the wind shifted. A faint hum filled the air, a deep, resonant sound that made the metal fences vibrate. Ethan's wristband flashed, and the blue light under his skin grew brighter. His heart raced. "She's here," he whispered. From the silver mist beyond the outpost, Sarah appeared again. Her form was sharper this time, more solid. She wasn't just a shimmer of light. She was fully there. Her cloak flowed like dark smoke around her, her red eyes softer now but glowing faintly. Nora gasped. What is that?" Ethan stepped forward. It's okay. She's not here to hurt us. Sierra's gaze moved from Ethan to Nora. Your kind fears easily, she said calmly. But tonight only he is called. Nora's voice shook. Called by who? By me, Sarah said. Ethan turned to Nora. Go inside, please. After a long pause, she obeyed, retreating slowly until the door sealed behind her. The hum in the air faded and silence returned. Sarah looked at Ethan and smiled faintly. You kept your word, he sighed. Did I have a choice? There's always a choice, she said softly. You could have run. You could have broken the bond. But you stayed. Ethan folded his arms. You said the bond wasn't complete. What does that mean? Sarah's expression turned serious. A vow is two-sided. You promised protection. Now I must give my vow in return. He nodded slowly. And what exactly are you promising? She stepped closer. My kind do not bind for moments. We bind for eternity. From this night on, your life will be tied to mine. When your body weakens, my strength will carry you. When my light fades, your heart will restore me. We will share existence until the moons burn out. Ethan blinked, trying to process her words. You're saying, we'll live connected? Forever? Yes, she said simply. Unless one breaks the vow. And if one does? The other dies, she whispered. He stared at her in shock. That's not a small promise. No bond worth keeping ever is. The wind picked up, carrying silver dust around them. Sarah raised her hand and a faint circle of light appeared on the ground. A mirror of the frost ring from before. Step inside, she said. Ethan hesitated. If I do this, what happens to me? You will stop being only human, she said gently. Part of you will belong to the energy that flows through my people. You will see the world as we see it. Not just light and dark, but what lives between them. He looked at the glowing circle. Fear prickled in his chest, but curiosity burned even stronger. And if I refuse? Then the bond will fade and I will disappear forever, she said. You will live, but half of your heart will always wonder what could have been. For a long time, he said nothing. The sound of the wind filled the silence. Finally, Ethan took a slow step forward and entered the circle. The light brightened, swirling around them like strands of mist. Sarah smiled softly, relief flickering in her eyes. Then it is done. She placed her hand over his chest again, just as before. Close your eyes, she whispered. Let me share what you gave me. He obeyed, and the world around him vanished. He saw flashes, her memories, her world before humans came. A great city of silver towers under endless night. The Nithari people walking in quiet harmony, feeding not on blood but on the radiant life of their moon. He saw their fall, when greed from other worlds forced them into hiding, turning them into shadows and myths. And then, through it all, he saw her, Sarah, alone for centuries, watching the stars and waiting for a voice brave enough to reach her. When he opened his eyes again, the night was still, but everything looked sharper. The stars were brighter, and even the air seemed alive. He could feel Sarah's heartbeat, faint but steady, echoing in rhythm with his own. What did you do to me? He asked quietly. I gave you part of what I am, she said. Now you carry my light. He looked down at his hands. The blue marks had spread up his forearms, forming patterns that pulsed like veins of fire. He could feel her presence in his thoughts, calm and warm. This doesn't feel bad, he said softly. Sarah smiled. It is not meant to. You accepted freely. That makes it pure. But before they could say more, a red beam cut through the sky. Ethan looked up and saw a fleet descending, human ships armed and scanning the area. His communicator crackled. Ethan! Command says unknown energy readings were detected from your position. Step away from that alien immediately. Sarah's eyes darkened. Your kind comes with fear again. Ethan's pulse quickened. No, wait, if they see you, they'll fire. They cannot harm me, she said. But they will harm you for standing with me. I can feel their fear, she said quietly. It burns like sunlight on shadow. They're not evil, Ethan said. They just don't understand you. A deep hum filled the air as one of the ships aimed its plasma cannons toward them. Ethan's communicator beeped. Ethan, report your status, Hayes barked. We're detecting an energy field around you. What did you do? Ethan took a slow breath. Stand down, Commander. She's not hostile. She's the reason the quake stopped. Stop talking nonsense, Hayes snapped. That creature triggered the anomaly. You're compromised. Step back and await extraction. Sarah tilted her head slightly, her voice calm. They will not listen. Their hearts are deafened by fear. Ethan clenched his fists. Then I'll make them listen. He stepped forward into the open and shouted toward the nearest ship. You want proof she's not a threat? Look at the ground beneath you. The Guardians are gone. The energy is stable. She saved your lives. The commander's voice replied, harsh and doubtful. We have no record of any so-called Guardians. You are under alien influence, Corporal. This is your final warning. Before Ethan could speak again, the cannon lights brightened, preparing to fire. Sarah's expression hardened. They will destroy you to silence their fear, she said softly. Then stop them, Ethan said. Her gaze turned to him sharply. If I act, they will see me as a monster. And once that happens, there will be no peace for you or for me. Ethan's voice lowered. And if you don't act, we'll both die here. For a moment she hesitated, her red eyes flickering with emotion. Then she raised her hand. The air shimmered and a translucent dome of light expanded around them. The plasma blast from the ship hit the shield and scattered like harmless sparks. The ground shook, but they stood unharmed. From above, the crew gasped. What the? She blocked a cannon strike. Hayes shouted. All units prepare to neutralize target. More weapons powered up and the air began to hum with deadly energy. Ethan turned to Sarah. We have to show them the truth before they attack again. She nodded slightly, her voice almost a whisper. Then let them see what I truly am. The light around her grew brighter. Her body lifted a few inches from the ground and her cloak spread like wings made of shadow and silver. Her eyes glowed a deep crimson, but they no longer looked dangerous, only powerful, ancient, and sad. The soldiers in the ship stopped for a moment, awed and silent. The commander's voice broke the stillness. What are you? Sarah looked up, her voice echoing through the valley. I am Sarah of the Nithari. My kind once guarded this world before humans ever crossed the stars. You have broken our sleep and awakened our pain. Yet one among you spoke a vow, not of greed, but of peace. Through him, I have chosen to trust again. Ethan stood beside her, his chest glowing with the blue marks of the bond. The soldiers watched as his body pulsed with the same energy that surrounded her. You see this? He shouted. This isn't control, it's connection. The bond saved this planet yesterday, and it can save more if you let it. For a few seconds, there was silence from the fleet. Then Commander Hayes spoke again, his voice softer but still wary. Even if what you're saying is true, the Council won't allow this kind of link. They'll see it as contamination. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then let them come. But they'll have to understand something first. He turned toward Sarah. And the shield. She looked uncertain. They may fire again. I know. But if we hide behind it, we'll never earn their trust. After a long pause, she nodded. The dome of light dissolved, leaving them exposed under the twin moons. The wind carried the sound of the ships humming above. For a tense moment, no one moved. Then the voice of the commander came again. Hold your fire. Ethan felt a rush of relief wash through him. He looked up and saw the ship slowly ascending, moving back toward orbit. Hayes's final transmission came through his earpiece. Corporal, you're to remain at that site until we get orders. Don't move and don't let her out of your sight. Ethan smiled faintly. Understood, Commander. As the lights faded from the sky, Sarah turned to him. You risked everything for trust that may never come. He smiled tiredly. Humans are stubborn. Sometimes that's our best quality. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. And sometimes you're most dangerous. They walked back toward the outpost together, the night calm again. Along the way, Ethan asked quietly, So what happens now? Sarah looked at the stars. Now the bond will deepen. You will feel my world through your thoughts as I feel yours. Our fates are joined, but there is one more trial before it is complete. He frowned. Another trial? Yes, she said softly. The Nithari High Council will soon know of this bond. They will not approve. To them, humans are invaders. They will come to test your worth. Ethan stopped walking. And if I fail? Then they will break the bond, she said, her voice quiet. And when they do, one of us will not survive. Omi, but deep down he sensed a storm building. By nightfall, the first sign appeared. A silver shadow moved across the valley, silent as a dream. Then another. The air turned cold, and the ground pulsed faintly with light. Ethan knew what it meant. They're here, he whispered. Sarah appeared behind him, emerging from a swirl of mist. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried worry. The Nithari Council has arrived, she said softly. They have come to judge the bond. Ethan turned toward her. You said they'd test me. What does that mean? They will measure your spirit, she said. They will see if a human's heart can carry truth. If they find weakness or deceit, they will end the bond by force. He frowned. And that means one of us dies. Yes, she said quietly. A shiver ran through him, but he stood firm. Then let them come. Moments later, the air shimmered again, and 6 figures appeared around the frost circle. They were tall and pale like Sarah, but older, ancient even. Their eyes glowed softly, some blue, some red, and their movements were slow, graceful, and full of quiet power. The leader, a woman with silver hair braided down to her waist, stepped forward. Her voice was calm but heavy, like wind through stone. You are the human who bound himself to one of our kind. Ethan nodded. Yes, my name is Ethan Miles. She studied him for a moment, her gaze sharp enough to feel. You speak without fear. I've already faced enough of that, he said. Fear doesn't change truth. The council members exchanged faint glances. Then the leader said, We are not here to harm, only to see. But know this, human. The bond you made has never been shared with your kind. If you lie or act without purity, the bond will collapse, and the energy will consume both souls. Sarah stepped closer, bowing her head slightly. Elder Vareth. He spoke the vow with truth. I heard it in his heart. The leader's tone softened, but only slightly. Your voice carries weight, Sarah, but our law does not bend for love. Ethan looked between them. So what do I have to do? Vareth raised her hand. A circle of light appeared in the air between them, filled with swirling mist. Step into the veil, she said. It will show us your truth. Ethan took a breath and stepped forward. The moment he crossed the light, the world around him shifted. He was no longer in the valley, but standing in darkness, surrounded by stars. He looked down and saw memories, his own life unfolding like reflections on glass. Earth, his childhood, his lost fiancée, his long nights on Ilaris, all of it played before him. Then came his meeting with Sarah, his vow, the awakening of the guardians. A voice echoed through the void. Why did you bind with her? He spoke honestly. Because I couldn't walk away. She needed help, and so did I. Maybe that's all it ever was. 2 lonely people finding something to believe in. The stars pulsed softly, and another voice asked, Would you sacrifice your own kind for hers? He hesitated but shook his head. No. I'd fight for both. That's what the bond means. Understanding, not surrender. For a long moment, there was silence. Then light burst around him, and he was back in the valley. The council stood still, watching him closely. Elder Vareth's eyes glowed brighter. His heart speaks with clarity, she said quietly. No greed, no deceit. Sarah's eyes widened slightly. Then the bond? It is pure, Vareth said. But purity comes with burden. The link now belongs to both worlds. Should humans or Nithari break peace again, his soul will feel the pain of both. Ethan exhaled slowly. I'll carry it. Vareth nodded. Then you are what our legends called the Keeper, a bridge between light and night. The other elders bowed their heads slightly, their figures fading one by one into the mist until only Sarah and Ethan remained. She stepped closer, her voice trembling softly. You passed, Ethan. They accepted the bond. He smiled faintly. Guess I did something right for once. But she looked worried. You don't understand what they meant by burden. The bond now connects not just you and me, but the balance between our worlds. If either side begins war again, the pain will fall on you first. He shrugged lightly. Then I'll just have to make sure there's no war. Her eyes softened. You speak as if peace is simple. It's not, he said. But it starts somewhere. For the first time, Sarah laughed softly, like wind through crystal. You are a strange human, Ethan Miles. He smiled. I'll take that as a compliment. As dawn touched the horizon, the frost circle vanished, replaced by warm silver dust that sparkled in the air. The bond between them pulsed gently in his chest, no longer a weight but a heartbeat that belonged to both of them. Yet high above in the quiet orbit around Alaris, the human fleet watched with unease. Commander Hayes sent a final message to Earth Command. The human subject is now fused with alien energy. I don't know if he's savior or threat, but whatever he's becoming, it's changing everything. Peered beside him as mist on the wind, other times as a silent figure standing under moonlight, her red eyes calm and knowing. They spoke often, not just with words, but through thoughts. He could sense her emotions now, warmth, curiosity, and something deeper that neither dared to name. One evening, while the horizon glowed faintly blue, Nora found him sitting near the frost plain. "They're sending new orders," she said quietly. "The Council on Earth wants you brought back. They think the bond can be studied." Ethan frowned. "Studied? Like a science project?" "They say it's for research," she replied, not meeting his eyes. "But you and I both know what that means." He sighed and looked toward the distant hills. "They still don't understand." Nora crossed her arms. "Maybe not, but they're scared. You're not exactly normal anymore." "I never was," he said with a faint smile. Then his tone grew serious. "If they try to take me, the bond will resist. It's not just energy, it's alive." Nora hesitated. "Are you saying Sarah will fight them?" Ethan shook his head. "No, I'm saying I might." Later that night, Sarah appeared again. The air shimmered softly before she formed beside him, her expression unreadable. "They are coming," she said. "I felt their engines before you spoke." He nodded. "Then we don't have much time." Her gaze lingered on him. "You do not have to stay here. You could leave with them. Return to your world." He turned toward her, surprised. "You'd let me go?" "If your heart wishes it," she said quietly. "The bond would fade, slowly. I would remain." Ethan looked down at his glowing hands. "And if I stay?" "Then you will never be fully human again," she said softly. "You will live longer, but your life will not belong to one world. You will stand between both, forever." He was silent for a moment, then smiled faintly. "I think I already made that choice the night I said that stupid joke." Her eyes softened. "You speak as if it was fate." "Maybe it was," he said. "Or maybe fate just has a strange sense of humor." Before she could answer, a distant rumble shook the air. Ships were entering the atmosphere, dark shapes cutting across the moons. The ground lights of the outpost flashed red. Nora's voice came over the communicator, tense and sharp. "Ethan, they're here. They brought capture drones. Orders are to bring I won't," she said. "But they will hurt you." He stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Then we show them what the bond truly means." The ground beneath them glowed faintly as the frost circle appeared once more. The bond flared alive, pulsing through both of them in waves of blue and silver light. Ethan closed his eyes and let the energy rise. The air filled with sound, not noise, but something like music, deep and resonant. It spread across the valley, reaching the ships, the drones, and every human ear that heard it. Inside the ships, panic turned to silence. The energy didn't burn or harm. It filled them with calm. Their weapons powered down on their own. One by one, the ships lowered to the ground, engines quiet. The soldiers stepped out, confused and trembling, but no longer afraid. Sarah looked around, astonished. "You reached them," she whispered. Ethan smiled faintly. "No, we did." The commander approached, his helmet off, his voice softer now. "What is this?" Ethan answered simply. "Understanding. The bond doesn't divide, it connects." There was silence for a long moment. Then slowly the commander nodded. "Then maybe we've been wrong." As dawn rose over the alien sky, the humans and the Nithari stood together for the first time, without fear or weapons. The Watchers, beneath the soil, stirred once more, their ancient energy pulsing in rhythm with the twin moons. Sarah turned to Ethan, her voice gentle. "They will write your name in both histories." He smiled. "Let them, but make sure they remember yours too." She tilted her head slightly. "You are certain you wish to stay?" He looked around, the silver sand, the distant stars, and her eyes that glowed like twilight. "Home isn't always where you're born," he said softly. "Sometimes it's where someone finally hears you." Sarah's expression softened into the faintest smile. She stepped closer, her hand brushing against his. "Then you are no longer just human, Ethan Miles. You are Ilarian now." The wind rose gently, carrying the sound of their joined heartbeats across the valley. The ships lifted once more, but not in anger, in respect. And as the twin moons rose higher, the human who had spoken a careless joke stood beside the last of the Nithari, bound by light, by trust, and by a promise that had changed two worlds forever.